Today we have the latest banned and restricted announcement from Wizards of the Coast. Today, October 12th, 2020. There was a lot of speculation and misinformation going around from this one. A lot of fake versions of this article making the rounds. That I saw in some very convincing looking screenshots that I almost went to video for with them, but I waited until I was able to click on the link and see it for myself. So here we are. After a grand finals that was largely dominated by this card, Omnath, Locus of Creation, we have some updates to Standard, Historic, and Brawl. And it's not just Omnath, although Omnath has been banned in Standard and Brawl and suspended in Historic. There are also a lot of other updates to Standard and Historic to go through. So let's talk through them. Let's see what they've said about them. Standard. With last month's Standard Banned and Restricted update, we highlighted that we'd continue to monitor the Standard metagame as well as Omnath Locus of Creation decks and would make further changes if necessary. Observing ladder play and tournament results over the following weeks, as well as the field of the Grand Finals over the weekend, we've concluded that additional changes are necessary. The two most popular decks in the Standard metagame, 4-Color Ramp and 4-Color Adventures, both feature Omnath Locus of Creation as a key component. While we did see a marked decline in the win rate of 4-Color Ramp after the banning of Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, particularly against red and green aggressive decks and blue-black rogues, Omnath Ramp decks continue to have a warping effect on the metagame. Moreover, 4-Color Adventures has become the deck with the highest overall win rate and has a favorable matchup against 9 out of 10 of the other top decks that don't play Omnath. This metagame dominance manifested itself in players' deck choices for the Grand Finals. While it's common in a small field invitational tournament for players to test together and converge on a few decks, in this case the field was a striking 23 Omnath decks out of a total of 32. To address the dominance of Omnath Locus of Creation, it is banned in Standard. Without Omnath in the environment, ladder play data makes it clear that adventure decks would remain as the strongest strategy. Therefore, we're also choosing to ban Lucky Clover as a powerful and difficult to interact with part of that deck's engine. We expect that individual creatures with adventure and decks using Edgewall Innkeeper will continue to show up, but after this change, a greater number of other decks can successfully compete with them. Finally, as a further step to ensure that ramp decks don't continue to dominate the Standard metagame, we're also choosing to ban Escape to the Wilds. This card plays a unique and powerful role as a bridge between strong ramp enablers like Lotus Cobra and powerful payoffs like Genesis Ultimatum and Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Of non-land cards in the Grand Finals, Escape to the Wilds was played in the second greatest number of copies. As the card common to many ramp variants, this is the most straightforward way to weaken that strategy as a whole and ensure a shift away from recent Standard metagames. Wow, okay, so let's talk about that for a sec. I mainly play Standard. I haven't played much Historic or Brawl, so I might not have a whole lot to say about those. But I gotta say, I agree with all of this. I really enjoy playing Omnath, unfortunately. That's what's kind of sad about this for me. And maybe a lot of you feel the same way. But it is a broken card. I don't think that's a mystery to anyone. I don't think that's a controversial opinion. Can it be dealt with? Of course it can. It dies to removal. I know, the boring, uninteresting cliche. But it really, it does too much for one card. I know it's four colors, but that's really not difficult to get to, especially with Lotus Cobra, Fabled Passage, any number of green cards that generate mana of any color, Beanstalk Giants, Fertile Footsteps, half. Really not hard to accomplish to get this card into play on turn 3 even. I've done that plenty of time with this deck. So really makes sense to ban that card. And also Lucky Clover, I think that was a good call as well. It's it feels really bad playing against an adventure deck with Lucky Clover and you're trying to do quote unquote fair things, and they put out a Lucky Clover and then they play Petty Theft, bounce 2 of your things, or Stomp, kill 2 of your things. It's just really hard to get past that unless you main deck artifact removal or you playing best of 3 and you have artifact removal in your sideboard. So it's really annoying. And like they said, this doesn't completely nerf the entire adventure mechanic because Edgewall Innkeeper is still a thing. And I think this does bode well for in the grand finals. Emma Handy and Autumn Burchett both played a Gruul Adventures deck that did not run Lucky Clover, and it didn't need it. It was a very powerful deck, but up against Omnath, it wasn't fast enough, didn't have enough weapons. But very powerful deck that I expect to continue to be powerful just because Bone Crusher Giant is such a good card, but it's a fair card. And ditto with Lovestruck Beast. Pretty much any of those adventure cards on their own without Lucky Clover are fair cards. I really think that. So, yeah, I think so. Those two are the right call. Escape to the Wilds, I get their reasoning for it. I was never like, wow, this is an amazing card, but it fits a nice kind of, like they said, it's a kind of intermediary step in the ramp plan of, okay, you get your Lotus Cobra, you get your Omnath, you drop Escape to the Wilds, you drop a couple lands, and then before you know it, Genesis Ultimatum or Ugin are online, and then you basically win the game. So that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm not missing anything else about Standard. So yeah, let's go over to Historic. Much as we've seen in Standard, Omnath Locus of Creation is proving to be a powerful contender in Historic as well. Though win rates for these decks are lower in Historic than Standard, we are still seeing the meta share of decks using Omnath Locus of Creation increasing steadily, particularly in Best of 3, where it is currently the most played deck. Historic also provides a wider range of tools for enabling the multiple land drops the deck is looking for, such as Explore and Growth Spiral. To ensure greater diversity and health for the Historic meta, Omnath Locus of Creation is suspended in Historic. We also have 3 current suspensions in Historic to resolve. Looking at how the meta has developed as a result of these suspensions, we feel that removal of Teferi Time Raveler and Wilderness Reclamation have increased the diversity and interactivity of the format, improving overall health and balance. As a result, both Teferi Time Raveler and Wilderness Reclamation are banned in Historic. Burning Tree Emissary is a different case. Since that suspension, the power level of Historic has increased considerably with the release of Jumpstart and Amonkhet Remastered, and we have seen the meta share of Gruul aggro fall off notably. After considering the overall power level of the format and the matchups for Gruul aggro, we think there is room for Burning Tree Emissary to be a healthy and interesting addition to the format again. Burning Tree Emissary is unsuspended in Historic. Okay, so Historic, like I said, I haven't been playing a lot of Historic since Zendikar Rising came out. I've mainly been playing Limited and Standard, but that makes sense. I mean, the one thing they didn't mention with Omnath is Uro is also legal in Historic. So you can basically play the ramp deck you wanted to play before Uro was banned in Historic. Plus, you also have Explore, plus a number of other ramp spells that aren't necessarily good, but they're there. So it makes a lot of sense to ban Omnath in Historic just because of, again, the power level. Like they said, the overall power level is higher in Historic, but Omnath, even in that context, is probably still too good. I don't know about the impact it's having in, say, Modern or the Eternal formats, but I think that's the right call. And then, yeah, continuing to moving from a suspension to a ban with Teferi and Wilderness Reclamation, totally the right call. Those cards were just too powerful. It's just clear that getting rid of those cards improved the meta a lot. So, right call there. Then unsuspending Burning Tree Emissary, As a largely Gruul player, that makes my heart very happy because it is a very powerful card to play on turn 2. If you go Burning Tree, Robber of the Rich, that's a pretty ridiculous turn 2. I will concede that. But it is fair, I think, and especially with the power level of Historic, like, I mean, a Gruul aggro deck can still easily get outrun by goblins. With, you can play Muxus on turn 3 if you're lucky. But it's a fair card. And maybe it will bring Gruul back up to prominence again. I think when they initially suspended it, they were worried. If I'm remembering right, there was some big tournament where like everybody ran Gruul aggro and Historic, and they were like, okay, we've got to do something about this. So they did something about it, and then they realized, oh, Gruul aggro is not a very good deck anymore. So maybe Burning Tree Emissary will give it a chance, or it just won't make a difference, and the Gruul aggro will still be somewhat irrelevant in Historic, which it is what it is. Okay, really quickly with Brawl. Omnath, Locus of Creation is by far the most played commander in Brawl and currently has the highest win rate. Brawl is a format where we particularly value diversity, so Omnath, Locus of Creation is banned in Brawl. Omnath, Locus of Creation will remain legal in historic Brawl events on MTG Arena. However, we will be using our commander weighting system so that he will be frequently paired against other similarly powerful commanders. I'm not sure what that last part would exactly entail, but I think that's the right call if that's the data they have about how popular it is and how winning it is. I think that's yeah. So like I said, don't play a lot of Brawl. It is a casual format, so this is largely a let's just try and make this format fun again by dropping this card. So yeah, so to go back to the top with this ban list, I think Wizards made the right calls here pretty much across the board. For standard, there aren't any bans I would add. I know some people were talking about, oh, we should get rid of Bone Crusher Giant, but why? Just because it's played a lot? It's a very fair card. Like, the Stomp is overcosted for what it does. Like, it's a shock for twice the mana, and sometimes the damage can't be prevented part is handy, like if you're in Historic and playing against a Solemnity 9 Lives combo. But other than that, it's not an oppressive card. Like the 3 toughness on the giant itself, that makes up for its versatility and its power level, that it's pretty easy to remove even if it does cost you 2 life. And yeah, I think that's one. Embercleave, I get the idea of like, oh, I can't block because there might be an Embercleave, but that's, I think it's nice for an aggro deck to have a finisher like that. And then if you can leave mana up for a negate or a Jwari Disruption or Lofty Denial or any number of other things, those are all blue cards I mentioned, but there are ways to deal with it. I don't think it's particularly toxic yet. If aggro completely takes over the meta, like I know Martin Yuza said that on Twitter with these announcements, that could very well happen. But I think, I think these bans are the right call. They're not immoderate and just like, we need to ban everything and start all over. But it really is, I've seen some people talking about this on Twitter, that it's just, there was some massive oversight in the playtesting area of the past couple of years, because if they didn't ban anything, there conceivably could have been a standard where Oko, Uro, Omnath, and Lucky Clover were all legal. Like, just think about that for a second. Think about how broken that deck is. I haven't even, like, you don't even have to say what the other cards are. That deck is ridiculous. Like, no one would play anything else. And yeah, so it's ridiculous that was allowed to go that far on each of those levels. And that's over several sets. That's Throne of Eldraine and Theros Beyond Death and Zendikar Rising getting that out of hand. So, yeah. I'm not a game designer. I don't have any claim of expertise on this. I'm just a player and a mediocre one at that. But they need to, I don't know, do more work, pay better attention. Something needs to change so that these things don't keep happening year in and year out, set in and set out, because, multiple sets come out every year. So, yeah, I agree with these bans. What do you think? Did they go far enough? Did they go too far? Should other cards have been banned instead? Should they have banned Lotus Cobra or Ambercleave or Bone Crusher Giant? What do you guys think? Leave a comment down in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think of these types of videos. I enjoy making them. They seem to do pretty well. But let me know what you think. And of course, if you like the video, smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, and share it around with your friends. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter at Hook and Push Gaming. At Hook and Push, sorry. And this has been Will with Hook and Push Gaming, signing off. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you later.